Hi, this is Michael Becker. And in this Tinderbox lesson, I want to show you how I leverage Tinderbox to transform content that I collect while I'm doing my research. And particularly what I want to demonstrate to you is my use of regex and dot replace and various other Tinderbox capabilities that let me be able to transform text, remove formatting, get structure out of the way so that I can just really dig into and start curating my content and my research. So let me jump right in and show you how that works. So this morning when I woke up, I saw this news about how President Biden signed an executive order to implement the European Union U.S. Data Privacy Act, our privacy framework, which is really, really important because it allows U.S. and European enterprises to be able to legally exchange personal data back and forth between the countries. Now, this was enacted as a means of replacing the U.S. Privacy or the prior framework that was in place, which was called the basically the Privacy Shield. And the Privacy Shield had a number of really important elements to it, and particularly principles about how we manage personal data and identity, as well as something that I wasn't really too attuned with prior to this morning, which is this idea of supplemental principles. And so, as part of my research, what I wanted to be able to do was pull out these supplemental principles and put them into a series of lists and notes that I could effectively leverage within my Tinderbox research. So let me go ahead and I don't need a new tab. I want to do is open up and create a new Tinderbox file, and I'll show you how that will work. So what I'm going to quickly do for you is I'm going to have my Tinderbox file, and I'm going to grab this text right here. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've grabbed that text, and we're going to call this one formatted data, because the reason why I'm calling it formatted data is when I paste this data into my Tinderbox note like so, you'll see that it comes in with all of its formatting, and particularly the URLs. And then the other thing what I'll want to do when I'm doing this kind of research is I will grab the URL and I'll add the URL attribute to the note. So now I actually know where this data came from. Okay, now if I want to go in and start manipulating this data, I can't because all these URLs are buried into the data. So if I click there, for example, you'll see that it takes me to the browser again. So now what I want to do is essentially get all of this data basically into its raw digitally native format. So we'll call this one raw data. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to the web page right here. I'm going to copy this data. And now I'm going to hit Shift Option Command V to paste that data into Tinderbox without all of those URLs, without all that formatting. So now I can start manipulating the data in an effective way. Now what I want to be able to do with this data is I want to get rid of this numbered list here, and I want to be able to then break this up into a lowercase list that I can then paste into one of my blog articles or possibly a report for a client, or break all of these items up into individual notes that I then can define and use for future research. So let me show you how I go about doing that. So first and foremost, we want to do is I want to point you to a fantastic resource, which if you don't know already, you need to know about, which is the Tinderbox ATB ref file, or the Tinderbox reference file that's so lovingly been managed by Mark Anderson. And what I'm going to quickly go here and hit dot replace. And we're going to find the operator that's called dot replace. And these operators are used in a Tinderbox functionality called action code that allows us to be able to transform and manipulate text. So let me show you how that's going to work. I'm going to hit Command 1 to open up the document inspector. And I'm going to go to the document inspector and then go to stamps. And we're going to create our first stamp. And the first stamp that in the series of pieces of action code that I want to do is I want to now basically remove all of these numbers, remove all of the capitalization, and create myself a list out of this note. So step number one when you're doing this is we're going to copy the content and we're going to say original content. Right, so now if I make a mistake, I have my original content that I can always draw back on. So now let's go ahead and start refining, or the other thing I could have done is just kept it as raw notes, copy the note and say we're going to call this one refinement 1, and it's going to be lowercase list. So in refinement 1, what we want is a lowercase list. Now I'm going to methodically step you through this process and show we how to do this. So the first one is, let's say I want to remove the numbers out of this list. Remove numbered list. Okay, so all we need to do is I can say text equals text.replace. And now I'm going to use the text.replace capabilities. And if we go back to the ATB ref, you're seeing the format here. It says text.replace equals some matched pattern, and then what you want to replace the text with. So let's go back here and talk about our matched pattern methodologies. So the matched pattern is leverages what we call regex, or regular expression. And regular expression is a pattern matching engine used by computing, in Tinderbox in this case, to be able to match text within native text like what we're seeing here. And so the pattern I'm looking for is a list of numbers followed by a period. Now, so let's go ahead and do that list. So using regular expression, we're going to do a character class called 0 through 9. So we're going to, the character class of any number followed by a period. Now, if I do this and I type the period is actually a unique capability within regular expression. It's a wildcard that looks for any piece of any character except a line break. And so in regular expression, the period actually means something. You know, it's that wildcard. So let's go ahead and type that. I didn't hit enter, so it actually got erased. So we'll go ahead and do this now. So in order for the regular expression pattern matching engine to not see this as a wildcard function that I'm telling the engine to look for, I'm going to put a what's called put a forward slash there, which tells the regular expression engine to consider this a period, actual piece of text period, and not a wildcard option. So now if we've done that, and then we're going to actually say, I also want you to remove the spaces in front of that. So, and then I want you, and then what I want it to replace it with is nothing. Okay, so I hit enter, and now if I paste that in, you'll see all of the numbers have gone away, except for the ones here. Now you can ask, okay, well, what happened? Well, what happened was, is I told it to replace the numbers followed by a period and a space, and that's exactly what it did. That's why we have raw data. So if we go back here and I paste this in again, I'm going to modify my regex that says look for all numbers plus the period and a space, and hit enter. And now we get our full removal of the list. Now let me kind of show you something a little bit. Let's say I'm going to copy that text back in here. And let's say there was actually a number here, okay? And this will not remove that number because of the pattern I'm matching, a set of one or more numbers followed by a period and a space. And since this is not followed by a period, that's not going to get removed. And so we'll just go ahead and show that to you real quick. Hit apply, and so you'll see I was able to successfully remove the numbers, not that one. So that's kind of cool. And something else to be thinking about as you're pattern matching within regex. Now what I want the system to do is I want you to remove capitalization. So make everything make lowercase. So with that, I can tell Tinderbox to say text equals text.lowercase. And again, these are all commands that you can learn by looking at your Tinderbox ATB ref file like we were showing you before. I can do .lowercase, and then there are the instructions for managing lowercase, and I can apply that. Oops. Go here and apply that. And you'll see now everything has become lowercase. And so now if I want to then turn this into a list of notes, I could go ahead and do that. And there's a number of ways I could go about turning this into a list of notes. First and foremost, let's say I want to explode this list. So I can use the explode function in Tinderbox and tell Tinderbox to break at line breaks and remove the text from the notes. And now I can go ahead and do that. And so I'm going to move to the outline view now to show you just what happened. And so now we actually have a list of the individual notes. So that's pretty cool. The other thing I could have done here, if I wanted to create a list in the original note, I could have gone like this. And I could say, let's give it, make a list. And we can say text equals text dot replace. And this time I want to replace line breaks with. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey Tinderbox, go into the text, replace all of the line breaks with a comma and put a space after that comma. Now watch what happens. There we go. So now we have a list of all of the notes with comma / space after that. And you'll see I also have those notes here. And then the final way that I may want to create a list is, let's say I want to create a list that I may want to be able to use later in Tinderbox. So I can then also do this, and I could say make list from children. Okay, and that doesn't need to be capitalized. And so then I can say my list equals collect children name. Right? So this is another set of action code that says go to the list of notes that you have here and collect the children and the name. So now if I do that, you'll now see I've got a list of all of those notes now that I can then later use for any other purposes within my Tinderbox file. So in doing this kind of activity, you'll see that we've been able to render this raw data, the formatted data, into a number of different ways. We've been able to create unformatted data. We've then been able to create a comma separated list of all of those unique items. We've been able to create individual notes with those unique items. We've been able to populate a note called my list, which that would allow us to be able to leverage these notes for other interactions within our Tinderbox file. And this is just getting started. Then you can do linking and a whole bunch of other really cool stuff has been discussed in all of my previous videos. So hopefully this helps you understand how to use the dot operator function, how to use explode a little bit, and how to be able to manipulate your text that you're copying while you're doing your research in a way that you'll be able to leverage for future work that you're focused on doing. So thank you very much for that. I hope you really enjoyed it, and please like this video and subscribe. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.